Channel 2. They finally came out with their narrative. The courtroom was split into two sides. A News 2 crew was inside the courtroom and observed the YouTuber and Sebastian's biological father, Seth Rogers, on one side. Meanwhile, the missing teen's mother and stepfather, Katie Proudfoot and Chris Proudfoot, and step-grandparents were on the other side. In the original temporary order of protection, Terry Sr. Bowersock, Sebastian's step-grandparent, wrote that Andra Griffin, also known as Bullhorn Betty, goes online and incites others to create mayhem in our lives and our family. She encourages violence by posting pictures of our home and our address online. His spouse, Maddie Bowersox, added in her order of protection that Griffin threatened to purchase a gun in Tennessee and bring that gun to my home in order to get answers. Seth said Griffin is only trying to help find his son. We have a detective that was apt about having somebody arrested that is using their voice and their platform to get my son's name out there. And they want to infringe upon her First Amendment rights, Seth explained. I am a deputy sheriff. That person is a deputy sheriff. The Constitution is what we're supposed to stand and back upon. You know, not to trample upon it. It really upsets me that they are limiting one person's voice, yet that person's voice is helping find Sebastian. They are not. And talking about Bullhorn Betty, Seth says she doesn't break down from pressure. Seth said that he hopes her First Amendment rights are addressed in court. Good evening, y'all. You know, I think this is something that I kind of just want to wrap up on this end about First Amendment rights and free speech, and the fact that Seth Rogers is going to stand out there and give a statement to News Channel 2 about how this woman deserves her First Amendment rights, and that this woman, she doesn't break under pressure, and all she's doing is helping find him. Well, somebody tell me, where the hell is Sebastian Rogers? Okay? She's not helping find him. She's in the middle of some court hearings that she brought upon herself. Good evening, Shane O'Housey, Adam, Chris Arnett, Liam Forsberg, Trevor Levesque, Stephanie Willow, Michelle Flanagan, Tina Reddington, Vix Tex. Folks, Jet Set J. When we're talking about First Amendment rights, Trevor, we're not talking about politics. We're talking about the Constitution of the United States. That's what we're talking about. That's got nothing to do with all this crazy stuff going on in politics that's been going on forever. It's all a bunch of kabuki theater, okay? But old KJ's here to talk to you tonight to kind of flesh this out with this statement of Seth Rogers. Now, my heart goes out to him. My heart goes out to Katie Proudfoot. We don't know if either one of them, or Chris Proudfoot, we don't know if anything nefarious has happened. In fact, law enforcement whether it's Sumner County, TBI, or FBI, they have not said that this is foul play. They've said the opposite. They've said there's no signs of foul play. Okay? So, taking law enforcement's word that there is no foul play from where they see things, let's start from there. Let's assume that Seth is innocent, Katie's innocent, and Christopher Proudfoot is innocent. Okay? Well, let's do that. Let's just, for sake of argument, regardless of where you stand on these issues. Trevor LeBeck says, someone asked Trump or Harris. My response was, don't bring up politics. Okay, Trevor. I wasn't reading all the comments, and we don't have a mod. So all I can tell all of y'all to do is please report these people. Help OKJ out. I'd appreciate it. Wise old lady says, real talk. She never searched. She's a rebel rouser. She trashed them. She refuses to shut up. Nasty woman. Okay. Seth Rogers was the one that was sitting by Bullhorn Betty in the court hearing. This tells you that OKJ hasn't been following this case a whole lot. Which really, if you think about it, I can look at this with a fresh set of eyes and tell y'all that I found out after the fact that Seth Rogers was there to support Bullhorn Betty. Okay? In fact, he says, Seth told News 2 it was frustrating to sit in a courtroom while his son is still missing. Why is it frustrating for him? Why is he sitting in the courtroom? Oh, it's extremely frustrating that I have to come here to support somebody, which I don't mind coming to support somebody that is supporting my goal of finding my son. But the fact that I have to come here because 4 people, want to put a restraining order against somebody who is just trying to find my son, and yet Sebastian is supposed to be her son as well. Y'all, let's get real, okay? I sat in that courtroom yesterday, and like I told y'all then, when I reported all this, they are not getting along at all. That Seth is the ex-husband of Katie Proudfoot. She's remarried to Christopher Proudfoot. They don't get along at all. They're not on the same page. They have daggers for one another, obviously. Because here he is taking up for a woman. Let's just put it like this. Seth Rogers. What if Seth Rogers had a YouTuber who was going online and incites others to attack Seth Rogers or cause mayhem in Seth Rogers' life or encourages violence by posting pictures of Seth Rogers' home and address? Would he have a different take on First Amendment rights? Would he? Because he has this woman who, clear Seth Rogers, clear Seth Rogers. Well, the bottom line is if the tables were turned, I guarantee you, he wouldn't be out here going, oh, she's just doing her First Amendment free speech. And I promise you this, y'all, that if this detective, Lisa Byington, she charged Bullhorn Betty with 6 counts of violation of order of protection, she wouldn't have done that unless she knew she could check. And the judge issued orders of protection, whether by default or not. So let me just throw this out here because I think it's important. Free speech is not protected by the First Amendment in certain circumstances. And I'm going to give you a few of those. And some of them are going to apply and some of them are not. Number 1, incitement of illegal activity. Speech that incites people to break the law, including acts of violence. Well, I'll tell you what. I don't know about you, but I've saw the live streams of Bullhorn Betty, and I've heard what she has said. I've seen on her community wall posting a picture of that detective, Lisa Byington, and doing everything she's doing. She's inciting people, and that's just as clear cut as it gets. She is not at all trying to take a neutral stance on this. She is already putting pictures up of Katie Proudfoot with blood all over the front of her shirt, which is a form of free speech, y'all. That is not included. It's not included because she is inciting people to say that Katie Proudfoot and Christopher Proudfoot are guilty of either hiding Sebastian, an accident happened, or they murdered him. She does not know, and neither does Seth Rogers. Obscenity is not covered under free speech. It's not protected. Speech that is considered obscene. Well, I guess that's a loose thing, is it not? Some people think that Bullhorn Betty, she says these things and posts these thumbnails, because it's not just the words coming out of her mouth, it's her thumbnails, it's her graphics, it's all that. She is inciting people to believe that Katie Proudfoot and Christopher Proudfoot are freaking murderers. And that, my friends, is going far beyond just slandering somebody. It's incitement and it's obscenity, in my view. Defamation. Do I even need to go there with defamation? Now, Katie and Christopher Proudfoot and these grandparents, the Bowersocks, are not famous people. For example, Wendy Adelson. She is an attorney. She's got a career. She could possibly do some damage to somebody, calling her a co-conspirator in a murder. Who knows? But speech that harms the reputation of a public figure, such as a politician, celebrity, or business leader. So that doesn't fall into that category. But again, I like to be educated. I like to share what I've learned. Then there's free speech that's not protected by the First Amendment, which obviously child pornography. That speaks for itself. That's got nothing to do with this case. Then you got false advertising. Speech that is considered false advertising. Well, I'll tell you what. Is it advertising to have a social media platform where you are constantly advertising that Katie and Christopher Proudfoot are murderers? Katie's got blood. Is it Sebastian Rogers' blood on the front of the shirt? Okay, let's just break this down. Fighting words are not protected by free speech. It's not protected by the First Amendment. Speech that is considered fighting words. Well, I'll tell you what. Why don't you just do the whole thing about putting yourself in someone else's shoes? If you were a mother and you were missing your child and somebody accused you of murdering your child and you didn't do it, and we don't know, but let's just for sake of argument, those would be damn fighting words to old KJ. Somebody tell me if one of my sons was missing that I murdered them, they better just freaking get ready. Because I'm willing. I've got the money to go to jail. People don't need to be telling people that they've murdered their children if they don't know it. If the evidence is not there. Okay? And we don't have evidence. We have inference. We have situational things and circumstances that are very suspicious. Also, free speech is not protected by the First Amendment. Harassment. Speech that is considered harassment, such as race-based harassment, which does not apply. Sexual harassment, that does not apply. Or harassment in an educational institution does not apply. So here it is. In terms of First Amendment free speech, when it comes to harassment, none of those apply. But what does apply is incitement, obscenity, defamation. And let's just close this out by saying the First Amendment only prevents the government. The First Amendment only prevents the government restrictions on speech, not restrictions imposed by private individuals or businesses. So the bottom line is this. Seth Rogers can do whatever he wants. In my view, until the evidence shows, I don't think he's guilty of anything. I don't think the Proudfoots are guilty of anything. I don't think that the grandparents, the Bowersox, are guilty of anything until somebody shows me the evidence. And until then, why is it that somebody would go online and continue to war and have daggers and do all these things to this mother and this stepfather and to the grandparents, step-grandparents of Sebastian Rogers? Folks, the bottom line is you can have whatever theory of this case you want. And that's fine. We all have our thoughts and theories about what could have happened to Sebastian Rogers. But ultimately, the law is the law that's been broken, allegedly, by Bullhorn Betty in terms of violation of order of protection. And for Seth Rogers to come out here and say this is about First Amendment free speech, obviously, if the tables were turned and Bullhorn Betty or someone else, and I'm sure there are YouTube channels that are accusing Seth Rogers of doing something nefarious, I wonder how Seth Rogers feels about these other YouTubers out here that are saying he's the one responsible. I bet it really pisses him off and hurts him and causes him anguish. But yet it's okay for Bullhorn Betty to degrade and do whatever she wants to do against Seth Rogers' ex-wife? Give me a break. Abby says, Bullhorn Betty is a wild ride down a deep, deep rabbit hole. Well, I feel like it's getting dark out here, and I'm not going to go much further into it. I wanted to come online. I knew a lot of people would come to the rewatch. Fancy Nancy, I'm sorry. I just want y'all to understand something. Until there are actual facts, the only thing that anybody knows is what law enforcement has said, and that is there's no sign of foul play. And if nobody wants to believe that, even though you've got Sumner County, TBI, and the FBI working this case, and for Seth Rogers to say there's only one detective, yes, there's a lead detective working the case. They have pretty much handed shit over to the FBI, and folks, you can't get no better than that. I understand that a lot of people don't have any confidence in law enforcement as it relates to whatever it is that they're not 100% perfect. But this whole argument about Bullhorn Betty, she's having her free speech taken away from her, I guarantee you. That judge in her case, along with the state of Tennessee there that's going to be prosecuting her, they know the Constitution and they know what civil liberties are. So with that said, Fancy, I'm sorry to put you through all this. Y'all just had to come on here and spew it. And we'll get back together tomorrow with Donna Adelson. I love you. Your free speech is worth so much until it destroys lives. So keep on looking, y'all.